I told my editor this when I made my announcement because I know my announcement was pretty loud. I got this graphic made up, um, and I quoted Meek Mill's "Dreams and Nightmares." I used to pray for time. That's my favorite song, by the way. Um, but I said like the announcement won't be louder than the work, and
Wow.
that's something that I like really take to heart. Like the as loud as the announcement was, the work is going to be even louder, and I really want to make my mark with this job.
What up? It's your boy Blue Magic, owner of For Your Wear and one half of the Mixed Tag Show. Now, I know you've seen the announcement for some of your favorite podcasts in wrestling. I've decided to expand my business to become a vendor so that people from the wrestling community have a better way to communicate with some of their favorites. So check out foryourwear.com and see if your favorite podcast on wrestling has partnered up with me. If not, let them know that they should. Also, if you're looking for a vendor for your merchandise, reach out to me at Blue Magic Grind, spell how it sound on Twitter and Instagram, or at ForYourWear, FORURWEAR, on Twitter and on Instagram. Shout out to Brian H. Waters and Breaking Through Glass Ceiling. Their merchandise are already up, and they're one of the first ones that's reported, so go support them. All right? Peace.
One thing you know about me is when I see my friends accomplish their goals, I get excited. Like, seriously. Today's guest is good brother, good friend of mine since we met in NABJ New Orleans and been connected ever since. The one and only Mike Curtis. Mike is now the Pistons beat reporter. And for someone who grew up as a Pistons fan, and he'll talk about why he changed, this is like a dream come true. Well, it is a dream come true. And I'm so excited to see this young brother from Saginaw, Michigan, come home to write for the league that he loves the most, the National Basketball Association. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to it. Here is my conversation with the one and only Mike Curtis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, today on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, I have a good friend of mine, a good brother, a star. He won't admit it because he's humble, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's a star. I've known that ever since I first met him, and that is the one and only Mike Curtis. Mike, how you feeling?
Man, I'm blessed. I really can't complain. I'm really happy to be on. I've been wondering when I was going to get that call, when I was going to get that text message, and now we finally here. So I appreciate you for just having me on, man.
Oh, absolutely, man. That means a lot to me, man. I'll tell you this. I tell people that when I first, decided to do this was shortly after NABJ in Miami. So about 2 months, I was with my former manager and good friend, Marin. We was in Atlanta for I forgot, it was I forgot which beat, but it was a conference, right? And I told her, I said, I want to start a podcast where I highlight a lot of my friends who are doing well. Like I love podcasting and I love what I do in wrestling. Sports is oversaturated. And I'll be honest with you, like I like sports, but it's so many people out there who can like break down the game, such as yourself, which we'll get into. And I'm like, I'll leave it to them. I'll get on and talk about some fun stuff here and there, or just have my takes and reactions. But I was like, I want to go in a different route. And I wrote out a list, and your name was on that list of people that I knew I had to have on here that I wanted to highlight. So everything happens in the right timing. So I'm glad today we're going to make it happen.
Absolutely. That if it's anything I've learned during my, 4 years professionally in this career, that everything happens in its own time and when it's supposed to. So you're definitely right about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Mike, when did you know like you wanted to get into sports and journalism?
That's a good question. I think I've always had it in me. Like even as a kid, I used to love the NBA. I used to always be the first to tell like my friends when I was in elementary school, like, hey, so-and-so got traded. Hey, did you see that dunk from last night? You saw that game winner? Like in a way, it was like I was breaking the news without even knowing it. But I think after my freshman year at Tennessee State, shout out to the Tigers.
Nice.
I was majoring in architecture, and I noticed that wasn't something that I was passionate about. I was really just doing it because I had the ability to draw and I wanted to make a decent living. But I think after that summer, my freshman year, I was like, hey, Mike, what do you really want to do? What do you like to do? What do you enjoy? And I noticed that was the summer that LeBron went to Miami. So I was just watching ESPN all day, every day, writing notes on Facebook about where he should go, what's going to happen as a result, basically stuff like that. And I noticed, like, I love sports and I love writing about it. Like, I've always been a talented writer. So I just figured I like just combine the two. And the rest is history.
You took me back when you said notes on Facebook.
Yeah.
I used to, funny story. So I went to community college and I was a general studies major because I wanted to do journalism, and they didn't have journalism at Baltimore City Community College. And it was supposed to be a 1 year break and it'd be a 3 year break. But one day I was on Facebook and I saw like notes and stuff. And I worked at Johns Hopkins. Now, when we met, I was working on the media team. But at this time, and I talked about on the very, very first episode, I worked in the storeroom, the nutrition storeroom, and then I moved up to become a support associate, basically housekeeping. And I would work overnight sometimes, and it's quiet on the ward. And I would always find an empty room and turn on Sports Center. Sometimes even if there was a patient who was a sports fan, like, I would go in there and talk sports with them. But those overnights, I would write notes. I remember one time I wrote about the Giants beating the Patriots, and I called it the Giant upset. So you took me back when you talked about the notes, man.
Yeah, and I remember even when LeBron went back to Cleveland. No, it wasn't when LeBron went to Cleveland. It was when they won the first championship.
Okay,
I called it LeBron's coronation because he had been searching for that first title. Everybody like announced that he was the chosen one, that he was king. I felt like that was his crowning moment, just getting that first one under his belt. We've obviously seen what he's done since then.
Yeah. So the NBA was that always your favorite growing up?
Yeah, NBA was always my favorite. I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan. So I became a fan of the NBA right around 2004 when the Pistons won that championship over the Lakers. 4 games to 1.
Oh, you just had to. This show was over. Oh my goodness.
But yeah. But no, I tell people
that's the first time that's ever been used on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. And it was the first time I've ever used it. It's usually saved for the wrestling stuff, but I had to use it there. That is still, so you're a Pistons fan, I assume.
So I grew up a Pistons fan. I detached from the team right around 2009 when they traded Chauncey Billups.
Right.
Chauncey's my all-time favorite player. And I think it was a good reason that I was able to detach that fandom, because now I'm covering the team and I have to be objective. And at the end of the day, I'm a reporter. Like I have to write about the good. I have to write about the bad and the ugly. So I think it's good that I'm no longer a fan of the Pistons.
I think that's real cool. And we'll get into that because I definitely have some questions around that. But, to touch on 2004 real quick, when the Pistons won, it ruined what would have been the perfect year for me. The reason is I graduated high school. I was finally getting freedom to drive. And I had a good job. Well, a good job for a 17-year-old. Right. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a good year. And I remember, shout out to the late, great Mr. Vic, former neighbor of mine, because he used to give me the blues because he hated the Lakers. And I was a diehard Laker fan. So like the year before, when the Spurs put out the Lakers and he was a Spurs fan, I'm like hiding, trying to take out the trash. And he's like, I see you. What you got to say? So I just knew. I said, oh, yeah, we're going to win it. I knew Detroit was serious because like if you paid attention, you knew they was a great basketball team. But it was like Kobe and Shaq. And then like I listened, somebody said it's a wonder how that Lakers team even got to the finals. And I remember my cousin just being over there, and it felt like a slow burn, that 4-1. It's like we should have just got swept if that was the case.
That Lakers team had a lot going on that year.
I still to this day say the reason we lost because we had Karl Malone. He's not a good person. If he wasn't on the team, we probably would have won.
I was just about to say, you had Karl Malone and Gary Payton, but both of them like suffered injuries, I want to say, during the playoffs. So they weren't even 100% health-wise. You had Kobe's situation earlier in the season.
Yep.
It was a dysfunctional year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but shout out to the Pistons. I just listened to Rasheed Wallace on All the Smoke. It's one of them. It was a great episode. Just hearing him talk
It
about
was.
that. But yeah, before we'll jump back into what you're doing now. But what would so you at Tennessee State, you find your calling. Let's call it for what it is. You find your calling. It's journalism and sports. How much how much sports did you get to cover while you was in college?
That's a real good question. So I covered I was a part of the Meter, which is the school newspaper at TSU. Those some good days, man. So I remember covering just basically football. I didn't do as much basketball as I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because there were a lot of other sports writers, especially when I first joined the student newspaper. So at first I was pretty much just doing like volleyball and football. I remember doing a story about the Hole, which is TSU's football stadium, and basically what it took for them to. So backstory: TSU has played at Nissan Stadium, which is where the Titans play, as long as I can remember. I want to say for the past decade, it could be more, but basically they play all their home games at Nissan Stadium. They've had some rare occurrences where they've played at the Hole on campus. But basically I wrote this story about like what it would take for them to be there full time. So that was one of my most memorable stories on the student newspaper. But to answer your question, I didn't get to do as much basketball as I wanted to.
Okay. Now, would you say that kind of like motivated you and drove you more to get to the point to get back to basketball?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to cover basketball. I just didn't know how.
Okay.
Like even when I was in school, like I would try to find these internships with like ESPN or the Washington Post, but you got to have a little bit of experience to get those really competitive internships, and you got to know the right people, which is what I found out going through my career. But yeah, when I graduated from TSU, I didn't have a job. I couldn't find a job for 2 years. So 2016, I went back to grad school and enrolled at Middle Tennessee State University and got my master's. I figured that would save me some more time. Shout out to my TSU professor, Professor Von Wallace. She's the one that kind of gave me that urge and say, hey, you can go back to grad school just to buy you some time. You'll have that label as a student so you can apply for more internships. So I racked up a whole bunch of debt, but I think in the end it was worth it because it led me on my path to what I'm doing now. So yeah, that was grad school, and on the side I started writing for Fansided. That's kind of how I got back writing. Mm-hmm. And then I interned with the Tennessean in the design studio. So I was a copy editor.
Okay.
And at the same time, I was working part-time at the Tennessean overnight or third shift. Yeah, overnight as just a dock helper, just helping throw baskets of newspapers onto the trucks so they can go out for delivery in the morning. So I think I got to see literally every aspect of like how the newspaper, how this job gets done, from the print side to the production side to just even the design side. So I think that was a pretty cool experience for me.
That's so cool, I think, too, because you've seen a different side of everything, especially like you said, the part that people, like how many people can say they've seen the doc side? That's writers, you know what I mean? I know like when I was at Hopkins, having worked in nutrition in the storeroom, and we would have to go to the hospital because like our office was in downtown basically. So we had to go to the office. Go to the campus. I knew the shortcuts and I could tell people, okay, well, if we need to get something for nutrition, this is the process. So you understanding that, and it also helps you get a deeper appreciation for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember specifically Game 7 of the 2016 finals.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what happened. That was when the Cavs played the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron blocked Iggy's shot. Kyrie made the shot over Steph. Kevin Love had the incredible defense on Steph for the last possession. We all know what happened, but I remember having a couple of my friends over that night, and that's what we do. When it was playoff time, when it was finals time, we all just gather at somebody's crib. So everybody was at mine this specific night, and we're all going crazy because this is like one of the best games we ever watched. And then at the end of it, I got to get up and go to work. It's around 11:59, 11:40-ish. I got to go to work, but I'm just on a high because of the game that I just watched. So that was a specific memory. I just remember like watching one of the best games I ever saw and then going to work.
Was you a LeBron fan? Was you a Cavs fan, or are you just a fan of you just rooting for a great game?
Yeah, so I became a fan of LeBron actually 2007 when he did what he did to the Pistons.
Okay.
I know a lot of Pistons fans probably hate that moment, but that was like the epitome of greatness. And it's something that I'll always remember. So that was the first time like LeBron actually like stood out to me. I had heard everything like leading up to it. Obviously his high school career, his first few years in Cleveland, but that was what like made me a fan of LeBron. And yeah, so I just enjoyed his game ever since.
Nah, trust me, I get it. And I'm a Kobe fan, and I didn't appreciate Allen Iverson or Tracy McGrady because I spent so much time defending Kobe against those guys' favorites, right? And so like when there was like the whole Kobe LeBron thing, I said, no, I'm not doing this because I messed up and probably couldn't appreciate AI and TI in their moment. Like I would look at their games like, oh yeah, that was good. They ain't Kobe though. So I had to like, put myself in his, like right now in football, I'm doing that with Patrick Mahomes because I'm a Lamar Jackson fan, but I'm allowing myself to appreciate the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's real cool that you was able to do that. Like, this dude just torched your team and you're like, wow, wait a minute. Like, so that's really cool. Now you talked about like, working overnight, and do you think that it was better? Like, obviously we need jobs, right? Do you think it was better being around like that newspaper, right? More motivated you a little bit more as opposed to like if you was in a warehouse or a food bank or something?
Yeah, so I think that's a good segue. I had the best of both worlds. So I did that. What year was this? 2016-ish? Yeah. Around this time, I was like basically not taking full-time jobs unless they were in the industry. And that's a big risk because I remember getting fired from my previous job, Assurion, cell phone insurance company.
Yep.
Pretty sure a lot of people know.
Unfortunately, you got to call them.
Exactly. But getting fired from that place ended up being the best thing that ever happened for me because it pretty much launched me on this path and this trajectory to where I am now. Had I not gotten fired, I probably would have I wouldn't still be there now. I know I wouldn't, but I would have been there longer than what I needed to be. So yeah, like in the midst of 2016 to 2018, when I graduated from MTSU, I was pretty much just working either internships or like part-time temporary jobs. And while I'm at those jobs, I'm like, man, I really want to like pursue journalism. I want to be a reporter. I want to write. I want to go to games. And I just didn't know how to get there until I applied for this program called the Sports Journalism Institute. Shout out to SJI. It's a program that changed my life. I'm sure you know a lot of people that came from that program.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what set me up for my first job in Syracuse. So I did that program in 2018. I interned at the Knoxville News Sentinel. That kind of landed me back at the Tennessean part-time covering Austin Peay and high school football for probably a couple months until I got my first job in Syracuse.
Wow. Now, real quick, I want to go back to the master's program because for people who want to know, like, what more did you learn and what kind of advice would you give to a journalism student who's on the cusp of wonder if they should go get their master's or not?
Yeah, I think it ultimately depends on what you want to do in the end. For me, my master's program at MTSU, it was kind of more theory based. So I wasn't getting that kind of hands-on development and practice that I wanted or was seeking. until my professional project. For my professional project, I pretty much posed the question, like, would you allow your kids to play football? This was 2018. So this obviously was a time when a lot of people were looking into CTE. I mean, we're still looking into it today, but that's something that I wanted to focus on. And I asked like parents, I asked high school football players, like why they play football. I asked the parents, why do you allow your kids to play football? Is it like some parents said, hey, I play football. I want my son to play football. I think soccer is a more dangerous sport than football. So they had all these like opinions. So I think that was what I really wanted to do. I wanted to get out. I wanted to interview people. I wanted to record them on video. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to write a story. So that was kind of the practical work that I ended up wanting my entire time at MTSU, but I only got to do it for a couple of months in order to graduate. So I say, ultimately, I say whatever you're looking for, make sure that's being provided in the program. Because if not, the biggest benefit for you will be like how I did, just basically having that student label so I can apply for more internships.
Yeah. Now, I know one thing we got in common is utility work.
Yeah.
Man, talk about your experience, man, because a lot of people don't know about like those jobs, and I'm pretty sure you probably got the, oh man, you can you give me some tickets, or you on the sideline, did you get ran over, stuff like that. So what how long did you do utility work, and what are some of the fun games you got to cover?
Yeah, so I started this actually, another shout out to Professor Von Wallace, because she put me on probably right after I graduated from TSU in 2014. She asked me, hey, ESPN is looking for people to come work the Vanderbilt game. Are you interested? I said, ESPN? Yeah. Not knowing that it's obviously through a third party company and I'll be working with ESPN, but just on the like production side. But that overall experience was dope too, because that puts you in front of people who you see on TV. So I remember the first game, I forgot who Vanderbilt was playing, but Laura Rutledge, who's on NFL Live on ESPN, she was the sideline reporter for SEC Network at the time. So pretty much that night, I just got to like shadow her and follow her, whatever she needed.
Wait, so you ain't had to hold like a light or nothing? You just,
I had to hold the light. Yeah.
Okay.
She did her live hits. I had to hold the light.
Yeah.
But those are like one of the easier nights because you just have to follow. You just have to follow her around and like hold a light. The harder nights is when you gotta follow the cameraman around and make sure you're coiling over under. Is how I learned. Yeah.
So I can't do it. Too. I'm not good at it.
I still do it. Even for my MacBook charger, I over under.
I tried to, but like, shout out to my friend Leo and Jay, they were good. So I never did the handheld because I ain't do it that long. But I was like, they was like, look, you ain't gonna get this on the first time. You're gonna mess up. But I still, out of habit, like even in church, I'm trying to over under, but I ain't as good as you, I'm pretty sure.
No, I had my mess ups too. Like we would be coming from, like even when I was doing basketball at Vandy, we would be coming out of halftime breaks and I'm over here tripping or trying to just unravel the entire cord. But no, those were definitely some good days.
Did you do
I did the parade. Yeah. So that's kind of easy too. But it can get tiring just holding a big bubble. A parab is for audio and sound, by the way, for those.
Yeah, and you can't talk. Like you can't react because it'll be on the TV. Well, the tech directors are smart enough not to make it happen. And see, I did it during the first time I did parabs. I think it was the last game before the pandemic. So it was like the last game of the season for the Washington football team and Commanders and the Giants. And it was like both teams was terrible. It was the year before they drafted Chase Young. And I remember it was about to go to overtime. And no, it did go to overtime, but I was like, why are y'all fighting to win? And mind you, I'm like, gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, come on. But then I did there was one point in 2020 where Russell Wilson came and he was like right near. I like posted this clip because like I would go on TV and find a clip and like, he was that close to running me over. But I always had like, I would look at the cheerleaders like, look, if it's coming, I'm coming that way. move.
Yeah, a lot of times during those football games, it was cold too, and we had to be
Yeah.
out there in 20-degree weather,
You had a
especially if
rain
it was
suit?
like, nah, I never had a rain suit.
Oh,
I was layered. I just had a whole bunch of hoodies on.
okay.
I had a hat on. I just had it up like this, and
Mhm.
that's how I got through it. But those were definitely some good times.
And I can imagine college, the atmosphere was crazy.
Well, remember we talking about Vanderbilt football, so
Yeah, see, like I did, at
it
the
was
NFL.
okay.
Okay, I never did for the Ravens games. I never did the parabs. I did get to do light panel for Aaron Andrews the night Lamar Jackson broke
Nice.
Michael Vick's record, and so that was really cool. But it was cold, like it had to have been 15 degrees. And I remember she gave me like some warmers, and that was the cool thing, like you said, being in front of people because you can talk. And especially like you up and coming, did you talk to like a lot of the town, let them know what you was trying to do?
Yeah. So that's how I met Laura Rutledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met Maria Taylor.
Okay.
That's where I met Tiffany Green. Who else? I met a lot of people, and I'm drawing a blank right now. Hopefully, I'm not forgetting anybody super important, but those are the main three that sticks out right now.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. It's always funny you can like talk to people who work similar jobs and you can kind of like exchange that information.
Kara Lawson. How could I
Okay.
forget this one? She's actually one of the most important ones that I met because she Duke women's basketball coach right now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that told me, hey Mike, go when you get back to your internship at the Tennessean. I know you're in the design studio doing copy editing, but go to the sports desk, go to the sports editor, tell them you want to write. And I did that. And the sports editor sent me on assignment to basically do a profile on one of the most decorated track athletes in Tennessee. Her name is Tyra Gittens, by the way. And I think she's at Texas. I think she's at Texas right now,
Okay.
running track. So, and this is back when she was in high school. So that just shows you how long ago it was. This was like 2017. Because I remember that was my first published article in the Tennessean. And it came out around my birthday that year. It was my 26th birthday at the time. So I could not forget that. I was so happy just to see my byline, my words in writing in the Tennessean. So big shout out to Kara Lawson for pushing me to do that too.
Man, that is amazing. Did you frame it?
I didn't frame it. I screenshot it though.
Okay.
I still have it in here.
Nice. You have to, man. Those moments, a lot of times we move forward, but you still got to celebrate your wins. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Brian H. Waters. I want to let you know, now you can have your own Breaking Through Glass Ceilings t-shirts. Simply go to foryourwear.com. FORURWEAR.com. Go to the podcasters tab, click Brian H. Waters, and you can purchase your own t-shirt. Appreciate anybody who wants to support the show, want to show that, look, you rock with the message, you've been breaking through glass ceilings. So go ahead and get a t-shirt. I appreciate you. And also check out some of the other podcasters that have signed up with foryourwear.com and the homepage as well.
Now, you talked about SJI. Also, like NABJ, that's where we met. Was it?
Yeah.
I get confused sometimes. Was it New Orleans or Miami?
It was New Orleans.
Okay,
New
that's
Orleans
what I thought.
My first NABJ, and I was naive. I was afraid. Even though I put myself out there and I talked to far more people than I thought I would. But yeah, that was a big one for me. I think that was big in terms of like just me getting comfortable around people that I idolize and that I see and I admire, and just seeing how willing they were to help me.
Yeah.
Like I met a few of my mentors there today, like Sherrod Blakely.
Shout out to Sherrod, man.
Shout out to Sherrod. Shout out to Sherrod. Yeah, I remember first time meeting him, I showed him my clips and he said, okay, we're gonna work with you. I can see the potential. Just stay in touch. And I mean, he's one of my biggest advocates to this day. So I definitely gotta give a big shout out to Sherrod.
Now, so you said New Orleans was your first one.
Yep.
How much did you enjoy Bourbon Street?
I did.
I know the first one
It
can
was
kind of be like, like my first was Orlando in 2013. And see, we couldn't we was on a resort, so really a
right.
lot of, you couldn't like just leave the resort unless you got in the car somewhere. But we did have like a free pass to go to Disney World, and they had buses. But
Nice.
we was pretty much, it was so much going on in that resort. It was a lot of fun. But did you get a chance to really enjoy New Orleans?
Yeah, I think it's weird because that was from the student perspective too. So I was just there and I was just hanging around like other students. So whatever they were doing, I guess I was doing. But I think it's different. And I was looking for a job.
Yeah.
So NABJ is completely different when you're like seeking a job. You need a job. You need that first job.
Yeah.
And then you go and you may have that job, but you're keeping your eyes open for something else. Just if it pops up. And then this past NABJ, which was in Vegas, this was the first time I've been to an NABJ, and I wasn't looking at all.
Yeah.
I was still making contacts just because of the industry we're in. It's always good to network, but I felt so free, so relaxed.
I was getting ready to ask you that. Like, how much of a difference?
Complete difference.
Your Vegas was New Orleans for me. I was there to really network and put Johns Hopkins on the map. And the same with Miami. But for you in Vegas, how much of just how much more relaxed were you?
I wasn't as relaxed because you still got to be on your P's and Q's because you never know who you're talking to. But it was definitely refreshing. And just to, I guess, get my flowers from a lot of the same people that I admire and that I read all the time, just telling me how much they're proud of me just for like pushing through, because they knew when I was an intern, they knew when I was covering high schools, college, and now I'm here at the NBA level. Like it was a full circle moment just to just get those flowers. And for other people, other students to be coming to me, asking me for advice on how I got to where I am. Like it's so crazy how much can happen in 4 years, which is really what it was.
And I was happy for you because I watched you work, on social media, seeing, reading your work and just watch you grow up. So I couldn't wait to see you, like you said, to give you flowers because I knew the grind, you know what I mean? And I still remember this day when you made the announcement of going to the Pistons. As we say in the wrestling world, I popped. It's a lot of people, when I see people hit certain milestones, it gets me excited because it's not easy to do. And to see you get that moment, man, and let's get into it. Let me ask you this, if you don't mind, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. Was there any other teams options on the table, or did it all just fall right in line and boom, the opportunity to cover the Pistons was right there?
Yeah, it fell right in line.
Okay.
And it's funny, I think it happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. NABJ 2017, I think I interviewed for a couple of companies to cover the Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. That was 2017, before I had known anything really. I think I had the potential, but I wasn't ready for that back then. I still hadn't had my first job. For me to go into my first job covering the NBA at this level, who knows how long I would have lasted. But that was even before I got my job in Syracuse. There were a couple times throughout my journey, my 3.5 years in Syracuse, where I was interviewing to cover NBA teams, which was pretty cool because I think it gave me the experience needed to be ready for this interview. So when the opportunity came up, when I found out that they were going to be looking for the Detroit News was going to be looking for a new Detroit Pistons beat writer, I jumped at the opportunity. A couple of my mentors gave me a heads up that something could be possible coming down the line, but they were kind of vague on what it really was. So when I saw my editor, Rob Beard, who covered the team before me, I got some real big shout out to Rob because I wouldn't be in this position without him too. When I saw that he was going to be taking the editor role and his job was going to be open, I was ready and I was excited, and everything started to make sense, especially since I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. Like what's the odds of you covering the NBA, something you've always wanted to do, close to home? It's like when LeBron got drafted to the Cavs, I'm sure. Like,
yeah.
So one thing led to another. I went through the interview process. It was a lengthy one just because you know how interview processes are. So,
oh yeah.
One day you think you're on top of the world, you did the best you could, and then other days you haven't heard from the company in probably a week or so, and you wonder what's going on. Did I do anything wrong? But everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And once I found out that I was going to be covering the team, once I was offered that job, like I couldn't contain myself.
Yeah. That's amazing. How'd you celebrate?
Oh, that's a good question. I took myself out to eat. I walked around I remember I got on FaceTime with a few of my friends that I had been keeping updated throughout the process. And I walked around my complex just talking about like the idea, the journey, what I'm looking forward to about moving to Detroit. I got a lot of family and a lot of community up here, which is something I feel like I needed. Just thinking about everything that comes along with it, the team and how it's a young up and coming team and I'm going to be rising as they rise. I think that's pretty cool too. Like I'm coming in at a really exciting time with Kay Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. They just got Jalen Duran to kind of add to that core group. They got a lot of young pieces, which it should be exciting. So I'm looking forward to covering that team too. But yeah, that's how I celebrated. I celebrated a little bit, but
yeah. Well, it's exciting because like I think about Rachel Nichols talking about when Kobe died.
Yeah.
She talked about them coming up together. And you see the rise, you know, like me having, you know, we all have like our circles, right? And when everybody like rises together, it's so fun because I always think back to, I forgot which one said it, but it was Martin and Salt and Pepper, and it was somebody else talked about they worked in Sears together. And later down the line, they're all in showbiz. And, you know, so just to see that rise and, you know, it's going to be real cool. You know, you getting this opportunity to build that rapport with the team, with the players and, you know, rise up the ranks. You know, what's the one thing you looking forward to the most about covering the team or just working in the NBA?
Just the different people that I think I'll be able to meet and just form relationships with. Because I think in one way or another, we're all connected. Whether that's what college we went to, whether that's if we went to a HBCU, whether that's the team we grew up rooting for, whether it's you got a long lost cousin that you never knew about. I think we're all connected some way, and we all share some type of commonality. So I think just connecting with people and being able to tell stories. That's what I wanted. I want to tell stories that have never been told. I want to really put out some really good content. And I want to be like, I said this, I told my editor this when I made my announcement, because I know my announcement was pretty loud. I got this graphic made up and I quoted Meek Mill's Dreams and Nightmares. I used to pray for time. That's my favorite song, by the way. But I said, like, the announcement won't be louder than the work. And that's something that I like really take to heart. Like as loud as the announcement was, the work is going to be even louder. And I really want to make my mark with this job.
Man, that's a deep quote. You know, like you said, hold on, we're gonna we're gonna pull that one up because it was a moment. And so we you know, since we got the ability, look, I'm doing more stuff for this show than I've ever done before, and I'm loving it. we throwing in graphics, we got sound effects, but boom, there it is right there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a loud announcement.
You know,
but no, shout out to Jay, Oh My Jay on Instagram and Twitter. She created that for me last minute. I didn't know how I wanted to do it, but she came in clutch like Kobe. So I appreciate that.
Look, man, that's dope. You know, I remember when I did mine for the Ringer, and I thought it out, and I was like, I had just got my Griffies, and I don't even think, to be honest with you, I don't think I had worn them yet, because I have like chased these shoes, and if I wore them, I probably wore them once, but I knew I was gonna wear that. I knew I was gonna have the jersey on, the Griffey jersey on, and the WWE Championship belt. The show, like, I'm about to be covering wrestling finally.
Yeah.
So I love everything about that, you know, because it's when you know exactly what you want to do, that's a blessing. A lot of people don't realize that there's so many people out here that don't know what they want to do with their life or with their career. And so when you know what you want to do, that's a blessing in itself. And to be able to do it, that right there alone, you know, it's priceless. You know, it's definitely priceless, man.
Yeah, I thank God every day because I know where I came from. Coming from Saginaw, Michigan, and I'm pretty sure you know a little bit about Saginaw just from our conversations, but it's rare for you to make it up out of a place like that and kind of find success unless you're like an athlete. Like we know Serena Williams, the GOAT, was born in Saginaw, Michigan before her family moved to Compton. Draymond Green, obviously a future Hall of Famer, basketball Hall of Famer.
He's in my top 5 favorites.
Really?
Oh, I love Draymond. I love Draymond, man. Just the heart is so. This is what I tell people. I told my pastor this. I said, I'm the Draymond Green of this church. I said, you know how he's the heart and soul of the organization. I said, because he brings everybody together, and a lot of people don't like his approach sometimes. And he had a few bad games in the finals, but you know the thing I loved about him was that he did a podcast every day. And he didn't shy away. So he's going to be himself. And that's what I love about Draymond.
He consistent. Whether he win or he lose, he going to have his mic in his hand. He's going to talk about what went right or what went wrong. So, but just like Draymond's an example. Darvin Ham, coach of the LA Lakers. He came from Saginaw. Jason Richardson. So like you think of all these guys and gals, and even just the circle of people in Saginaw that made it out that are in the journalism field, like Karen Phillips. He writes for Deadspin. Nikel Ellis, she writes for CNN and a bunch of other people. So I'm just trying to follow in that mode and just put on for my city and where I come from. So, because it's hard. It's really hard, man.
Yeah, man. Well, like I said, Mike, I'm super proud of you. I'm excited. Don't be too hard on the Lakers this year. We're gonna shock the world. We're gonna shock the world this year. You know, Russ and Bev gonna get it together. They're gonna have some. Bev said he excited, so
I'm looking forward to seeing how that team gels because you got a lot of different personalities on it, and usually when it's a LeBron-led team, you're gonna have a lot of personalities on it.
Yeah,
from Russ and Pat Bev to AD to obviously LeBron. It's gonna be an interesting team to watch. And
I'm excited to have the Coach Ham.
Yeah. I think he's the type of coach that can kind of bring those guys together, and he'll command their respect.
Exactly. So before we get out of here, I gotta ask you this question. It's that question I ask everybody. When did Mike Curtis break through the glass ceiling? When did you realize I'm good at this? I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's a good one. I thought about this because I knew that was going to be a question. And I feel like I got a lot of moments where I broke through a glass ceiling.
Go ahead, spit them.
The one specific, that I'll mention is 2017. when I started covering NBA 2K's launch events.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working at Airmark, doing HR representative stuff. And I get an email one day from a third party PR company who says they're with NBA 2K. And they want to invite me to New York for their NBA 2K17 or 18 at this time launch event.
Mm-hmm.
Expenses paid, hotel paid, flight paid. I'm like, this is a scam. So I did not respond to the email. I get a follow-up email probably a week later and say, hey, Mike, we really like you to be at our launch party. Just let me know if you're free and if you're interested in coming. So I responded this time. And once I saw that this was legit and I'm on a plane going to New York on their dime, about to cover NBA 2K, something that I've been playing my entire life. I remember, I think my first 2K was 2K5 with Ben Wallace on it.
Mm-hmm.
So once I saw that I was on a plane going to New York to cover NBA 2K's launch party, and I'm being able to interview pretty much CJ McCollum. This is the first time I interviewed Jason Tatum. Damian Lillard was at the one in 2018. So I went back to back, went to New York 2 summers in a row to cover NBA 2K. I'm like, is this real? Like, especially coming from what I was currently doing. I was at a 9 to 5, like not customer service, but basically customer service job, HR. So I thought just that was the moment where I knew that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and that I'm not going to stop until I'm doing it full time. And the fact that I'm doing it full time, it's like, I can't ask for more.
Man, that is amazing, brother. Now, question, side note, gotta ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you ever play NBA Live?
Oh yeah. I was a big live guy before I became a 2K fan. So
me too. I still say, as much as like Live 05, man, that was like the best one. I remember me and my godbrother would play the dunk contest literally like all night. Or that was the All-Star weekend, man. I wish they would. I have all of them, all the lives. I don't have all the 2Ks yet. That's the next thing to collect. I got them all from 14 and up, and I got 2K5 again.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like to collect those things for nostalgic purposes.
Yeah, between Live 05 was one with Melo on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in that All-Star game, because I remember like it had the Denver court. I used to do between the legs twice, and that's an automatic 50.
Yep.
I remember that game. I remember it for sure. I remember that.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, well, man, let you get out of here. Like I said, I'm proud of you, brother. Let the people know where they can find you.
I'm proud of you too, man. Like, really. I'm same way you've been watching my career. I've been watching your career unfold too. So I'm proud of everything you're doing, man. I think you got a great platform. Just highlighting everyone that you encounter in this business, because it's hard. And we know if it wasn't for the connections that we made, we probably wouldn't be as successful as we are. So I just applaud you for highlighting everyone's journey.
Thanks, bro. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Seriously.
Yeah.
Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm on Instagram at Mike Curtis 2. On Twitter at Mike A Curtis 2. And just hit me up, interact with me. I love to connect with people. And once again, thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Curtis, make sure y'all follow him and make sure y'all check out his work this year, because I know it's going to be good. I'm interested more in the Pistons now just because Mike is working there. I don't have no beef. I mean, 2004 hurt, and then they couldn't. They were supposed to beat the Spurs and they didn't. But that's it's all good. It's all good. But so long, everybody.